Now, so Minister of Finance, Setekwe, says Ghana's economy is beginning to show signs of recovery from the current challenges. Setekwe expressed optimism that the nation will rise again despite the challenging period it's facing in recent times. Presenting the mid-year review, revised budget and the macroeconomic targets for 2014, he told Parliament President John Dramani Mahama's administration remains committed and focused to lead the country out of the current temporal economic challenges.
Based on the revenue and expenditure outcomes for 2013, the overall budget balance on cash basis registered a deficit of 9.5 billion Ghana cedis, or equivalent of 10.1% of GDP. This was against a deficit target of 8 billion, or 9% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, the overall budget deficit for the period was financed from both domestic and foreign resources. Domestic financing amounted to 6.9 billion Ghana cedis against a target of 5.7 billion Ghana cedis. Foreign financing was 3.2 billion against a target of 2.5 billion. The higher foreign financing was as a result of partial utilization of the 2023 Eurobond to finance capital expenditures in that budget. Mr. Speaker, developments in public debt. Mr. Speaker, Ghana's total public debt stock, which stood at 35.9 billion or 19.2 billion US dollars as at the end 2012, increased to 52.12 or 24 billion US dollars at the end of December 2013. Of the total public debt stock, external debt stock was $21.5 billion, whilst domestic was 27.1 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, in terms of GDP, the total public debt stood at 55.8% as at the end of December 2013. The increase in the public debt was largely on account of the issuance of the Eurobond and disbursements for major infrastructure projects such as the Bui Dam, which has since seen commissioning, the Ghana Gas project, the coastal protection projects, and redevelopment of the police hospital. Mr. Speaker, excuse me. Mr. Speaker, may I now turn to the performance from January to May 2014. Mr. Speaker, the 2014 budget aims at restoring stability, and it sets the following targets, as will be recalled: overall GDP growth of 8%, non-oil real GDP growth of 7.4%, an end-year inflation target of 7.5% within a band of plus or minus 2%, overall budget deficit equivalent to 8.5% of GDP, and gross international reserves of no less than 3 months of import cover of goods and services. Developments from January to May 2014 indicate that the economy continues to face setbacks due to unfavorable developments in both domestic and external environments. However, as we have noted already, the medium-term prospects remain brighter. The details of the macroeconomic performance of the period under review are highlighted as follows. Mr. Speaker, GDP grew by 6.7% in the first quarter of 2014, down from 9% in the corresponding period in 2013. The agricultural sector led with a growth of 12.7%, which is up from 6.7% in analogous quarter in 2013. On inflation, inflation has continued to increase in 2014, and it rose to 15% in June 2014, from 13.5% at the end of December 2013. The rise in inflation was mostly influenced by the cost push pressures arising from upward adjustments of petroleum utility prices higher transportation costs, and the pass-through effects of the currency depreciation as well as wage increases. However, we
Now, pupils in over 50 basic schools in the central regional capital, Cape Coast, are not getting any printed questions for the promotional exams. Instead, the teachers are having to write the questions on the board while the pupils take turns for the exams. School authorities explain they are unable to finance the printing of exam papers due to the delay in the release of the capitation grant.
The capitation grant introduced by government sought to relieve parents and guardians the burden of paying the numerous levies that hitherto would have been charged by school authorities. The grant, which covers examination fee, teaching and learning materials among others, according to the school's heads who spoke to Joy News off camera, has delayed for about 3 quarters. Although the conference of the heads of basic schools met parents to find a solution to the problem, they could not come to an agreement. The parents are said to have refused to pay, insisting the problem has to be resolved by government. Teachers who spoke to Joy News on condition of anonymity were not happy writing exam questions on the board and hoped government would attach importance to education and provide their needs.
The Ghana Education Service says the first tranche of subventions to government-assisted senior high schools will be effected latest by July 19. The Public Relations Officer of the service, Charles Parker Alote, assured the Ministry of Education and Finance is processing the payments to the various schools to enable them operate efficiently.
This comes after the conference of heads of assistant secondary schools threatened to close down schools due to the delay in the release of the monies for the 2013-2014 academic year. The subventions are released every term to take care of utilities, maintenance of office equipment, stationery, among others. But the monies have not been released for the whole of 2013-2014 academic year, with the third term due to end by July 31. The school heads say they have had to rely on credits to run their schools. The Ghana Education Service, however, says the payments should come in good time to stem any planned shutdown.
We have had constructive notice. We have been given a letter dated the 4th of July, which has released some 25,816,000 cedis over Ghana cedis for disbursement to schools. But this only constitutes the first tranche of the releases that we are expecting from the Ministry of Finance. We are still making overtures to them to make sure that our schools don't run smoothly without any let or hindrance, especially by way of financial hiccups. So I can confidently say that by the close of this week, our schools will get their releases. Their accounts will be credited from the controller, from the Bank of Ghana, for them to be able to pay their creditors and pay for other encumbrances.
He stressed the service is also taking the necessary steps to avoid delays in the future.
The government itself is putting a lot of sanity into the disbursements of funds and the utilization, therefore, of the funds. That is why we have the give me's. And that is why we also have this new system called project-based payment. The government will make sure that the project for which they are paying the money goes directly into the project. But this time around, the central bank or the finance ministry will want to make sure that the money is going to the project directly for utilization.
Government subsidizes each student by about 25 Ghana cedis per term.
I'll be right back with some more. Don't go away. Thank you very much for staying here on News City. Now, social media has moved from being a platform for just entertainment to that which many would describe as avenue for serious business. All the major financial institutions you can think about around the world, such as JP Morgan and the U.S. Federal Reserve, are all on Twitter and Facebook. But Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Kofi Wampa, says his institution is not ready to be on such platforms.
I don't think I'll ever go on social media. We'll do it when we stabilize the economy, when the economy is stable. Because if I go now, the number of insults, you know, these days I don't listen to your radio, because I hear that every day I'm being insulted and so on. So if I listen, I'll probably not be able to sleep. So I don't listen. So if I go on that social media, I don't know the number of insults that I will get, and cartoons that graphic will make of me. The other day I saw a cartoon, I wasn't sure it was me. But when I looked closely, I think it was me they were. But maybe it's something, I hear that a lot of institutions are going that way, because it also promotes transparency and so on. It's something we will study and see whether it will be a good idea to do that. We will not follow blindly, but we would study the context of our economy, of our system, and see whether it's something that will benefit us.
Go back to Parliament now. Communications Minister Dr. Atani Delali is speaking with us. Would listen quickly and come back. Well, I understand that we're having challenges with our live feed. Meanwhile, Minister of Finance said Tekwe has besieged Parliament to approve a supplementary estimate of over 3 million Ghana cedis for the 2014 fiscal year to enable government effectively run affairs of this country. Now, he's also told the House developments in both the global and domestic economic environment have necessitated a revision of the macroeconomic framework and assumptions underlying the 2014 budget that was presented in November 2013. I'll tell you more later. Let's listen to Dr. Atani Delali. We'll bring you that soundbite in subsequent broadcast. Terrible feed from our live tools today. But the need for a supplementary budget, according to Tekwe, was necessitated by recent and, in some cases, long-standing global and domestic developments. Trust us to bring you more discussions around the supplementary budgets and a bid to cut down on budget deficit. As overall budget deficit target has been revised from 8.5% of GDP to 8.8%. We are looking forward to spending more. What for? Find out in subsequent broadcasts. Let's talk sports now. Spanish La Liga side Rayo Vallecano has unveiled Ghana midfielder Derek Boateng as their new signing for the 2014-2015 season. The 31-year-old signed for Vallecano early last month after a frustrating spell at English side Fulham. Boateng made just 3 appearances for Fulham in the just-ended season, which ultimately cost him a place in the Ghana squad for the 2014 World Cup. The Madrid-based club will spell out details of his move. Boateng is determined to get his club career back on track, having previously played for FC Cologne, Getafe and FC Nipro. AC Milan will offer Ghana midfielder Michael Essien to Zenit St. Petersburg as part of a bid for defender Domenico Crescito, according to reports. According to Milan News, Essien, among 4 players the club would be willing to trade to Zenit in the proposal for the Italian defenders' services to strengthen their backline this summer. Other players likely to be included in the deal are Ignacio Imbai Niang and Christian Zapata. Zenit have Crescito at around 12 million euros, and the Rossoneri would be looking to unload one of their men in order to decrease the price tag of the former general man. Dancehall artist Samini appears to be taking his social responsibilities pretty serious. After dropping hints of establishing an NGO, he has gone ahead to launch projects to bring light to people in rural Ghana. The project Light a Million Lives was launched on Tuesday.
Taking on a humanitarian cause is no easy job, but if recent events are anything to go by, then Samini might be a good activist after all. The dancehall act appears to be expanding his brand as a performer, having ventured into active business and announcing plans to set up an NGO. On African Union Day this year, he spent the day with some deprived children at Enough Grade School Complex in Accra. As if that were not enough, on Tuesday, the musician launched another ambitious project called Light a Million Lives. The project, according to him, is to distribute solar lamps to people living in remote parts of the country. He is thus calling for corporate support to make it a reality.
In celebrating my 10th anniversary as a professional artist, I was thinking of doing unique projects, embarking on different stuff, including investments and social responsibility driven projects. So I did Amsterdam. I launched the restaurant, and then after a month we're here at my own restaurant launching my own solar lamps, which I am planning on distributing for free. 1 million of these solar lamps. I on my own already have in my mind to start distributing the lights, but I'm looking at corporate bodies to come on board, people who want to be a part of changing people's lives in society by giving them a solar lantern should come on board and be a part of the production cost of having 1 million solar lanterns distributed.
The executive secretary of the project, Mel Kwesi Davis, told Showbiz the project will affect many lives.
Hope to affect people's lives, in two ways. Number one, my grandmother in my village, one of the things that she always asks me for is kerosene. Why? Because that's what she puts in her lantern to be able to light up the house. Now, if I give my grandmother this solar lantern, what it's going to mean is she's not going to buy kerosene again, and because she's not going to buy kerosene again, she can keep some money. That little money she used to buy kerosene, she can save it, and that money she can use to buy other things for herself, other things for her upkeep, other things for her grandchildren, like sanitary pads, you know what I mean.
But even as he expands his field of interest, Samini assures fans music is still a major part of his life.
Away from that, I'll just take you through a quick highlight of the revision of the 2014 macroeconomic targets as announced by Finance Minister in Parliament. We'll see overall GDP, including oil growth, revised from 8.0% to 7.1%. It's been revised down. Non-oil GDP, real GDP growth also revised down from 7.4% to 6.6%. Inflation has been revised up from 9.5 to 13.0, and overall budget deficit targets revised up from 8.5% of GDP to 8.8%. Gross international reserves of not less than 3 months of import cover of goods and services. But like I said, we'll bring you lots of conversations around this in subsequent broadcasts. You might want to stay on for that if you want to understand more on this revision of the 2014 mid-year budget. My name is Kemini Nyamani Yamana. Thank you very much for your company. Good afternoon.